Good afternoon, welcome to UK Column News. It is the 16th of October 2014 and it's just gone 1 o'clock. Myself, Louise Collins, Brian Garish and Nick are here in Plymouth. And our guest today is Chris Spivey, who is in the Southend area, I believe. Hello.
Hello. As you can see, tropical weather in Plymouth. A little bit of grey sky and rain, but quite warm in the studio. So here I am, bringing back summer sunshine.
Okay, I'm freezing, but there you go.
It's mild but drizzling in mid-Wales. And what else have we got? I think that's it. The only weather report is drizzle in mid-Wales. So we'd better move on from there. Well, we're going to start straight away with the subject of Marine A, Alex Blackman. Now, this is the Marine who was imprisoned for shooting a wounded Taliban on the battlefield. Raised huge controversy at the time. This man's still in prison, and we understand that another 10,000 signatures are needed in order to get a debate on this man in Westminster to consider essentially whether the trial and his subsequent imprisonment was just. Now, we at the UK column believe that this is a huge opportunity to start unwinding problems that have been created. So the troops fighting overseas, of course, were doing the bidding of others, and warfare overseas is violent and unpleasant. Well, it's unpleasant wherever it takes place. But Nick, if you just pop that one back up, the contrast that I wanted to get here is that whilst many people may, of course, think that what Alex Blackman did on the battlefield was very, very wrong, perhaps we should just consider this man who was responsible for orchestrating the violence and the war, not only still a free man, now also a millionaire, never been near a court, and certainly never been near a prison cell. So we wonder whether it would be appropriate if we can get suitable debate going in Westminster, and also consideration of whether senior British politicians need to go to trial for war crimes, that Alex Blackman's predicament would offer an opportunity for a reconciliation between members of the parts of a British community and overseas community, of course, torn apart by the actions of Tony Blair.
Do those petitions actually get any? Do they actually make a difference? These petitions? Well,
they do in as much as
they go to Parliament after a certain
100,000
right.
signatures.
So
get on it then. 10,000 needed to do something for.
And
Alex.
how long was it set up? How long ago was it set up? If there's only 10,000 needed, that's quite good going.
Well, it's been several months now. I don't know the exact time, but they have had a very good response. Very emotive issue. We are saying, think about this one really deeply. This man puts his life on the line to do a job. You can say he failed on the battlefield at a particular time, but he's in prison while British politicians who created the violence in the first place are strutting around on the world stage. I think I know where my vote goes. And, well, what is happening in Britain, we get more and more clues from watching what ACPO, a private company, of course, is advising. And the police are now saying that their own police officers should be entering gun owners' homes and securing weapons using anti-terror laws. So again, if we have a look at this really as to what's going on here, the police have been arming themselves with thousands of automatic weapons, batons, CS gas, pepper spray, tasers, of course, I haven't got listed there, and water cannon. Meanwhile, the public is to be inspected and disarmed wherever possible. And who's setting this policy? Well, a private company with some very questionable senior police officers. So why is this happening? It's our opinion that what you're seeing here is the state becoming ever more fearful that the ordinary man and woman will get to the stage where they think it's necessary to act in order to correct the criminal activity in Westminster. And of course, guns, as far as the establishment concerned, remarkably dangerous. Which leads us on very nicely to the police, who clearly think in this case, in this country, they can just break into people's homes and Chris Spivey has been on the receiving end of that.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
We should have Chris Spivey with us somewhere.
I am here.
Okay.
Hello, Chris. You're right.
Hello, Lou. Yeah, I'm fine. Are you?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
So,
Brian?
Yes, and I can hear you okay now. Excellent.
have we got visual on Chris today or not? Yeah, there he is. So,
Oh, I've got a face for radio, haven't I?
No, that's fine. Chris, you've had a lot of things happening around you with the police over the last few months. Your home literally raided at 2 o'clock in the morning. Your door and other fixtures and fittings broken. You've been threatened. Your family's been intimidated. Social services have been brought in. Just for viewers and listeners, give us a recap of from that first encounter with the police. Take us through to what's recently happened, and just explain what has been going on around you.
Was the 30th of July, and it was about 1:30 in the morning. Big knock on the door. Now I live in a flat, or a block of 6 flats, and there's a security door to come from which you need a key fob to enter by, and then you have my front door on the ground floor. So big knock on the door, but obviously the security door didn't ring the bell. So at first I thought, oh, it's my neighbours or whatever. I looked through the spy hole and I could only see one policeman. And of course, as far as I was aware, I'd done nothing wrong. And so I just opened the door, and there was another 3 behind him. So, they asked my name and whatnot. And if I was him, I said, yeah. I expected at this stage that they were going to tell me there'd be some sort of accident with a member of my family or something, And he said, can we come in? So I said, you got a warrant? He said, no. I said, well, you're coming in then. And at this point, my daughter, whose bedroom door is right by the front door, came out, quite obviously upset. And while I'm doing that, while I was turning around to tell her to go back in the bedroom, they wandered in and arrested me and said, we're going to search your property. So I said, no, you're not. You ain't got a warrant. He said, we don't need a warrant. So I said, where does it say you don't need a warrant? He said, under section 32 of the PACE. He said, and by this time I'd been arrested for suspicion of harassment. Now, I don't know how you can be arrested for suspicion of harassment. You either harass someone or you haven't. Simple as that. But anyway, they was very aggressive. There was 3 fellas and a woman, and they was very, very aggressive. So I demanded to see a copy of section 32, and they wouldn't show me it. It's all like, oh, you can see it down the station. When you get down the station, now you either behave yourself or we take you down the station now and we're going to search anyway. Of course, my daughter was very frightened, never had this sort of thing before. So I didn't have a lot of choice, but I kept in wanting to see this copy of section 32 of PACE. Eventually, one of them, he sort of moved the sheet over to me, but he wouldn't let me hold it. I don't know if it was hot or what. But straight away, I saw the word indictable offence. Now, section 32 says you can only search a property if the person has been arrested on that property or very close to that property, and the offence he's charged with is an indictable offence, which I say harassment isn't. So straight away I said, you're not on. It's not an indictable offence. And at this point they became, I wouldn't say nervous, Brian, but they became a lot less cocky, a lot less sure of themselves. And one of them walked out, obviously went to make a phone call. He came back, he said, yes, we can search your property and take what we want. Once again, either you behave yourself or we'll take you down the station now. Now, at this point, a policewoman had already started searching my daughter's bedroom, where my 16-month-old grandson was asleep. And when I say search, I mean search. They had all her clothes out, all her purses open, under a bed, all the drawers out, everything, the whole lot. When they'd finished there, they went into the living room, and there was an hour and a half in the room. Now, I wasn't allowed out of my daughter Stacey. I wasn't allowed out of the bedroom. But at first, Stacey was. You know, every time she said, "Can I go to the toilet?" they said, "You know, you're not under arrest. Like, you can go where you want," you know. And then Stacey heard them say they were going to take the router for the internet. Of course, like, my daughter can't live without the internet. So she said, "Well, what are you taking that for? You know, there's no need to take that like that. That's got nothing to do with it." So they said, "Oh no," but they unplugged it, you know. So she said, "Can I go and plug the internet back in?" And once again, "Yeah, sure, you're not under arrest, no problem." So they let me in here, and she plugged the router back in, came back out again, and about 10 minutes later, it stopped working again. You know, I've got a dodgy connection anyway, but you have to mess about with it. Anyway, she went to go in the living room again, and the cop said, whoa, no, you can't go in there, you can't go in there. So, very, very strange. He said, like, put his head around the door and said, "Can you make sure the internet's plugged in properly?" Which they did. Now, it's strange that I wasn't allowed to come in here, or Stacey wasn't allowed to come in here, where 10 minutes earlier there was no problem. There was an hour and a half in here, and all they took was 2 computers, not in sealed bags, incidentally, a printer that didn't work, my mobile phone, which I never used. I don't use mobile phones. I only had it for when I went away to Blackpool to get a talk, so Stacey could keep in contact with me. And in the back of the room, to this side, there's a coffee table. Under that coffee table was a notepad computer, you know, the little laptops. They never have got that. And over this side of the room, there's a cupboard behind there. And in that cupboard, there's a hard drive and various memory cards and whatnot. And they never got them. So obviously, they didn't look. So what was they doing in here for an hour and a half? Just unplugging 2 computers. It takes 5 minutes, you know. Once they'd finished, they didn't search. They didn't search at all in the bathroom, at all in the kitchen, in the walk-in cupboard in the hallway. They never looked in there, and there's all manner of stuff in there. And they never searched my bedroom either. So, you know, how was that? Like, I mean, there's no time limits on searches, as long as they take, you know. And all through this, I say they'd been very rude, and the copper who was making sure that I didn't walk out was, you know, very aggressive to me. When Stacey's 2 friends turned up to keep her company, because obviously they wouldn't take me no matter what. They was very rude to them as well. They had to give, like, you know, the ins and outs of a duck's what's it to get through the door, and, you know, their names, addresses and whatnot. And I was saying, incredibly rude. Got down the station, they kept me, all in all, start to finish, it was about 19 hours. I was down the station about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I think I got down there. And they told my daughter, I mean, I don't know, one of them had told my daughter that I would be interviewed at 9 o'clock. Now, notwithstanding that the search was, I say, you know, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, when that is completely against the rules, especially with young children in the house, and on such a misdemeanour, you know, there was no need for it. Why didn't they get a warrant in the first place? You know, why was the sudden urgency to arrest me? I say, as far as I would have answered the door if I'd done something wrong, you know. So it was as if I was going to run away for this misdemeanour, this suspicion of harassment.
And was this all over Woolwich, Chris?
It was, yeah. Well, so I'm told. I never got to the bottom of who made the complaint. It was I was arrested on behalf of the Greater Manchester Police, and according to the Sun newspaper, it was because of a complaint made by Lynn Rigby. But the police never told me, do you know, exactly who made the complaint. But I say, you know, 9 o'clock came and went, and then because I'm diabetic, I had to see the doctor, and it was her. And I know it was 10:10 at that time because I looked at the clock on the wall. And she said, "Do you know what the hold up is?" And I said, "No." And she said, because, well, they're not sure who's going to interview you, whether it be the Greater Manchester Police or the Southend Police or the Essex Police. And I thought, well, bloody hell, if it's the Manchester Police, they can't be down here, so either I'm going to have to wait, 3 or 4 hours before they get here, or they're going to cart me off to Manchester. I think, I had no watch, but I would guess it was about 1 o'clock when they finally started interviewing me, two fellas from Southend CID. Now, once again, CID interviewing someone on a misdemeanour doesn't make sense, but it was obvious what they was trying to ascertain, do I belong to any religious groups, am I a Muslim sort of thing, obviously trying to link me with terror, which I'm not. I have no religion. I respect people's religion. That's up to them. People can believe whatever they want to believe, but personally, it's too much of a leap of faith for me, and I don't have any religion, But I say, they was asking me these questions. They had a lot of photos and whatnot that was taken from my website, and they was asking me questions. Now, I answered them, and because I've got nothing to hide. Then they asked me about Prince Charles. On my Facebook page, there's links to my website, not my personal Facebook page, my Facebook page that links to the website. The head photo was a picture of a mock-up picture of me and Prince Charles, and Prince Charles going, "My God, you're lovely," spiking me, saying, "Bugger off," but in stars, And it had been there 6 months, no problem. And I said, well, "What are you showing me that for?" It's been there 6 months. And then they started talking about my Facebook page. And, obviously Facebook don't tolerate harassment. And I know for a fact that a charity, supposedly a charity, over 300 people on there had reported me to Facebook, complaining about, my Lee Rigby articles, and nothing had been removed. Well, the only thing that Facebook removed was a picture of William Hague with a penis on his head, and I didn't even put it on there, and I thought that was a bit rough anyway, because he's a big dickhead. But nothing was removed. And I say, Facebook don't tolerate your harassment, so I can't have been harassing them now.
Chris, just as we've got to watch the time a little bit. So
take
us to just, if you can just sum that up, that particular interview, and then get us into the next incident.
And how long was it between July and October? Wasn't it?
That first incident, I say that there was no. I've been asked to remove nothing, so I can't have been harassing anybody. Otherwise, I'd still be guilty of it. I was bailed without any charges and no charge on the bail sheet. And then I was meant to be answer bail on the 5th of September, I think it was. And I was just getting out of the bath, ready to go. I had to be there at 10 o'clock, and it was about 9 o'clock. Big knock on the door. I thought, oh, that's an old bill knock. So I told him I got my jeans on, got to the door. Then I already opened the door to walk in, but luckily I have a latch on it. So I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, Chris Piper." I said, "No, what are you doing?" He said, "You meant to answer bail today." I said, "Yeah, and it's 10 o'clock. He said, "It's been extended. Here, take this." And that was it.
And when was this, Chris? Sorry, when was this?
That was the 5th or 6th of September. I can't remember exactly which loop. And I say nothing else happened. In all this time, they've still got my stolen computers. I haven't asked for them back or anything like that, even though I was illegally arrested and they was illegally obtained. Then, I think it was the 6th of October, or it might be the 9th, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, bang, bang, bang on the door. I was asleep at the time because I work through the night and sleep in the days. My daughter's coming. She was, Dad, it's the police, it's the police. So I went to the door, and they'd opened the door, so, no denying that we weren't in. I said, "What do you want?" He said, "We want to talk to you." I said, "You got a warrant?" He said, "No." I said, "You ain't coming in then?" He said, "We only want to talk to you." I said, "No," and shut the door. So then they started, we're going to kick you out. Open the door, because we'll kick you down. I said, no, you're not coming in. No, you got no warrant. You got no right to be here. End off. Go away and get a warrant and then come and see me. Next thing, I didn't know that there was, the big rams that they use, but obviously when I see the door afterwards, it's obvious that they come equipped. This was 3 plainclothes policemen, incidentally, as opposed to 4 uniformed Robocop up, and whatnot. And so I'm banging on my door, and I'm going, Stacey, film this, otherwise, I'm going to be really in trouble, they're going to kill me or something. Windows, I looked out, my bedroom is right opposite Stacey's bedroom by the front door. The bedroom door was open. I see the cop in the backyard. As they've come through the door, he smashed the window. Totally no need for it. So we had the baby in here, the baby screaming, Stacey screaming. Luckily, they made so much noise, and my neighbours come down and being a bit clued up, they got their mobile phones going, didn't they? So he's arrested me on suspicion of having indecent material on the computers that they stole. So a lot of people had been warning that this would come to this, but there was measures taken anyway, unbeknownst to them. So anything on there that's indecent or illegal, you have put on there. Anyway, so they had me away. They wanted me to sign a sheet saying no damage, and that sheet's on my website for everyone to see. No damage. Like the door's still off. I've got a big piece of plywood across the front of the door. The door's still off its hinges.
We showed the pictures last week, actually, of the doors and the damage that they'd done.
Well, there you go. That's what the police class has no damage, Lou.
Yeah.
So off I went with the 3 of them. And it was amazingly quick. The whole, from start to finish, I was away 6 hours. Now, the photos they showed me, Southend CID again, the first one that came up was Brooke Shields in the bath, a photo shoot taken from when she was 10 years old. Now, this photo, I got it off some sort of Wikipedia site, events of the 20th century that caused a scandal, because these photos were taken for a magazine. They appeared in a magazine when Brooke Shields was in the bath, 10 years old. Her mother was there, she had a pushy mother and whatnot. But I say they've come off a reputable website, and you've only got to type in Brooke Shields 10-year-old photo shoot, and the pictures come up uncensored, and I had censored them for when I put them on my website, uncensored, without even mentioning the word nude or naked or anything. Just Brooke Shields 10-year-old photo shoot, try it for yourself, they'll come up. So I said, yeah, and then they showed me a load of paintings done by the paedophile artist Graham Ovenden, which I've read about 6 articles on Graham Ovenden. Once again, type in the artwork of Graham Ovenden, and these pictures that they were showing me will come up straight away, uncensored. So yeah, no problem there. Then they come out with I don't know if you know the painting. It's a vile, disgusting painting or photograph actually of a little girl weeing on another little girl, and the little girl who's being weed on has her legs splayed and is naked. Now, this photo, I can't remember the name of it, is what was displayed in a Newcastle art gallery, and the police investigated it and advised the Newcastle art gallery to take it down, which they did. Now, the owner of this photo, and I don't know, when I say photo, I think it's a big portrait size sort, not a little snap. The person who owns this is Elton John. And if you type in Elton John's child, I don't know where, child artwork or whatnot, the photo comes up again uncensored, and it says, categorically states that the Crown prosecution ruled that this photo was not illegal. Now, do you mean to tell me after this is like 2 months have passed since I've had the computers, and they didn't know that was illegal?
Yeah.
That was legal. Yeah.
Right. So, Chris, you get out again, and no charges Have any charges been levelled against you?
No bail conditions, nothing.
Okay.
While they was charging me, they said that a social worker will be around first thing in the morning. If you know what's good for you, you'll cooperate with him again. Do you want me to just shut that curtain while it's the dog's on?
Yeah, that's okay. Right, so this is classic, isn't it?
The social worker didn't come that day. He came the next day, 48 hours after I'd been arrested. So there was obviously no rush. This is a social worker because the first time they arrested me, the police made a malicious allegation, again, which has been found to be totally untrue. And 2 weeks prior to me being arrested, we got the letter from the social services saying the case had been closed, which is once again on my website. So the social worker turns up and we knew because she'd rung up, so it was already, we were going to record her and whatnot. And I gave her a proper hard time for a start. She didn't know what the photos were. So I said, well, how can you come around here assessing a child that could possibly have potentially life-altering changes on him, and you don't even know what the photographs involved? I then showed her a letter that was sent to me by temporary DCI Gary Biddle, or Biddle, something like that, which I got over these photos, which said he wanted to discuss it with me because I might have illegal content on my website. Well, I never answered because I've got illegal content, or I haven't. There's nothing to discuss, But nothing ever came about it. They didn't know about this letter either. And she point blank lied to me. She said the reason that they closed the case 2 weeks prior was because they couldn't get a policeman to accompany her around here, which means that if people who really do abuse children, don't worry, because you'll be okay if the social services can't find a social worker to get around there. They just close the case on you anyway, So I knew this was a lie. She also said the reason that I had no, because I said, if I'm such a danger, why, or if I'm guilty, why isn't there bail conditions? Usually what happens is if someone is caught with child porn on their computer, they're given, restrictions on what they can do on the computer, and they would never have allowed me to come back here, or they would have had Clayton, my grandson, away straight away. So I brought this up and I said, there's no bail conditions whatsoever. So she said, that's because the police aren't allowed to give bail conditions because you haven't been charged. Now, if a social worker thinks that, and then either they're proper dumb and aren't qualified to be a social worker, or they're lying to your face when they're not qualified to be a social worker, because the police can put whatever bail conditions they like.
Okay, Chris, right, we're just gonna have to cut you a little bit short. I think just hold on a sec. What we'll say to you live is we'll get you back to if you're available next week. We'll bring you back on next week, and we can do some more. But so if I just summarise this, so you've had the police literally break into your property twice with no warrants.
No arrest warrant, no search warrant.
You're then questioned. There's no charges brought against you.
Not at all.
And all you've got to go on is that somebody somewhere reckons that you were harassing them over.
But they haven't sued me for libel, Brian.
Right.
Why? It would be the logical route.
Yes. Okay. So, and then not only did the police smash their way into your house with no warrant, and it appears no proper evidence against you, but then as a backup, they bring in social services start an attack on you over your grandchild.
Despite being cleared 2 weeks previously, and Clayton being seen by health visitors, and everyone declaring, and agreeing that the police allegation from the first arrest was just malicious.
Right.
Okay, and unfounded. Okay, so. And I say the idea is, Brian, is to shut me up, is to get Clayton, because they know my family's my weakness. I have my daughter and my grandson, both of who live here, and are being good and waiting in their bedroom so Clayton doesn't kick off. They've lived here with me 16 months. I brought Stacey, my daughter, up since she was 6 months old on my own. Never, ever any problems. As I say, Clayton's 16 months old, and I've looked after him on my own. Took at least twice a week while my daughter was at college and whatnot. No problem.
Yep.
And yet now they're coming around here and trying to steal him away, but that backfired on them as well, Brian.
So what we've got is essentially harassment and bullying by social services as well. So this all focuses in on what you've actually been researching and what you've put up on your website. And many people in the chat box as we speak are saying, well, this is what it comes down to, the fact that you've been digging into areas which have upset the establishment. So if we can just say thank you very much for joining us and giving us that excellent summary of what's happening today. If we can bring you on early next week,
that's fine,
we'll be able to actually have with questions and answers on some of the things that you've been looking into.
No problem whatsoever, mate. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks,
Brilliant.
Chris. Take
Thanks
care.
very much.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Well, we'll just have a quick look at chrisspivey.org here. So if you want to go and have a look at it, we will say that Chris uses some fairly colloquial language to get his point across. That's his style. We're not interested in bad language today. We're interested in the truth, and we're interested in why the British state feels entitled to smash its way into people's houses with no evidence. But do go and have a look at Chris Spivey's research if you haven't. And then let's have a look at what's really coming through in the mainstream press at the moment.
OK, so the Mail here are discussing author John Grisham, who gave an interview to The Telegraph defending sex offenders, saying they are victims of a legal system gone crazy. He said, "We have prisons now filled with guys of my age, 60-year-old white men in prison who've never harmed anybody, would never touch a child," Grisham told The Telegraph. But they got online one night, they started surfing around, probably had too much to drink or whatever, and pushed the wrong buttons, went too far and got into child porn. He was then questioned about the fact that viewing child porn fuels child abuse. And he responded to that by saying that sentences should still be lower for people who only download the indecent images of children.
We're now nibbling at the edges here. It's like age of consent, start off with 16 and then 15-year-olds are involved, so we better lower it to 14 and down we go. And now what we seem to have coming in is the nudging towards the fact that, well, of course, this is all normal and we should make it fully normal at law. And bring us into the BBC, of course.
Stephen Glover here has wrote a piece on how the BBC are preparing to install a plaque of honour for the late DJ John Peel on its John Peel wing at Broadcasting House. The plaque should have gone up actually in 2012, but the BBC held back due to damning allegations accusing Peel of having sex with underage girls on numerous occasions on BBC premises. But apparently the BBC is actually now planning to put back up this plaque. In this article, they are highlighting how many other BBC, so-called heroes and legends of the BBC have come into the spotlight and unstuck. But they are continuing, to make the BBC is continuing to make the same errors by still honouring this man. And apparently, at age 26, he married a 15-year-old American girl called Shirley Ann Milburn. And he got her pregnant. And then when he was working over in Texas as a DJ, he recalled later on, giving an interview, he said about 13-year-old girls queuing up at the door. He said, "Well, of course I didn't ask for ID." He said, "All they wanted me to do was to abuse them sexually, which of course I was only too happy to do." And those are quotes directly from John Peel. And apparently in October 2012, Jane Niven alleged that she had a 3-month affair with Peel when she was just 15 and he was 30, and she became pregnant and had a very traumatic abortion. So all of these allegations up against John Peel, but the BBC still highlighting him as a hero, and I think they even still have a John Peel Day on the radio as well.
Yeah, big questions to be asked on the BBC. Pretty despicable organisation. So interesting to see it reporting on Rotherham.
Yeah, certainly this is brief. The Chief Constable of Norfolk, Simon Bailey, has spoken to The Guardian, saying the scale of child abuse could be a lot larger than previously thought, and has called upon doctors and teachers to do more and play a bigger part in spotting signs of abuse. He went on to highlight how abuse had been ignored by agencies such as police and councils. And you picked up a bit more on this, didn't you?
Well, I did. If I just bring these in here, of course, the connection is the leading officer for the Association of Chief Police Officers concerned with the issue of child abuse here. So he's warning the scale of the problem nationwide could be larger than previously thought. We don't know for sure, but we think it's tens of thousands of victims a year of this appalling crime. So here's the police casually saying, well, we've got massive crime going on, but we don't really know what's going on. So they've had years to work at it. And then we get this little twist. The bigger picture is that 90% of child sexual abuse takes place in the home, where crimes are being perpetuated upon victims by people they already know. Well, hang on a minute. If he doesn't know what's going on, which is the first statement, how is he able to say that 90% of the abuse is taking place in the home?
And I think we're finding it in care homes.
Well, this is the question. How many children are being abused in care homes? We got 1,400 in Rotherham to start off with. It looks like we're up into the thousands in Nottingham. We got North Wales. And yet this man is saying, oh, no, it's people abusing these children in the family environment. But he admits that police don't have the evidence. So this is a pack of lies, it's propaganda, and it's coming straight out of the Association of Chief Police Officers, who are the very people concentrating on gun owners instead of protecting the children. So if you follow it through, this is your Guardian article here. So the problem's bigger than previously thought. Oh, now we've got a figure, 600,000. Well, 600,000, and we're not seeing significant prosecutions. We haven't got any prosecutions over the children's homes. He thinks it's an appalling crime. 600,000.
Yeah. And we haven't got any prosecutions coming out of Westminster either.
So what are the police actually doing? Here we are, is all the comments. But it's this man's job. He's head of child abuse unit in ACPO. And we know the police are not fully investigating these crimes. We've seen this with Melanie Shaw in Nottingham as a recent example. So it seems to us it's time for the public to bring men like Mr. Bailey to book, because either this man is incompetent or he's working to actually cover up the exact number of children that are being abused. So fascinating to see this lot coming into the mainstream press. And just go and have a look at ACPO. This was back in February, I think, this year, where ACPO's child protection unit was boasting about the radical steps taken to tackle child sexual abuse post-Savile. But actually, nothing has happened.
Nothing.
We've only just got Wolf in position, Wolf in sheep's clothing. Is she going to stay as a result of connections with people who've been semi-implicated in abuse themselves? We don't know. We're virtually at the end of 2014, so this is another media lie from ACPO. We did try and speak to them this morning, but they didn't call us back. So, sorry, what have I got there? Yes, the majority of participants did not disclose the abuse at the time because they felt they wouldn't be believed. For those who did tell someone, no action was taken, and many were laughed at or dismissed, and that was going on in Oxford, it was going on in Nottingham. So the police know all this, but are they actually pulling apart the high-level paedophile rings? No, they're warning off whistleblowers like Melanie Shaw, Ben Fellows.
I did see something today that Samantha Morton, the actress, is going to be, the police want to interview her so they can take action against the home that abused her.
Oh, well, she's high profile, isn't she?
Exactly.
She looks good on the TV. She's high profile, so this will give them another opportunity to drift public opinion. Right, let's get on to this. Sky reporting that Bernardo's victim has now blown the whistle on the fact that Bernardo's was blaming victims for their own abuse. It's quite incredible, this. But we've got Mr. Javed Khan, the chief executive of Bernardo's, has condemned the institutions that blame children for their own abuse, and called for them to be investigated by the government's independent inquiry. Well, we could say on one hand, what he's suggesting here is that every local authority in the country should be investigated because they're clearly blaming children for their own abuse. Certainly Oxford, that was paramount. That came out in the court cases. But what has this man and his charity been up to? Huge charity. Barnardo's says it's there protecting the children. So what has Barnardo's actually been doing? And of course, a lot of victims say that they're very suspicious about the very charities that say they're there to protect children. So this is the letter that they were talking about, dated back in 15th December 1993, heavily redacted, of course. So this is the meat of it. From talking to, and the situation could have been avoided if, and there's a blank, so we can assume that's the victim, if the victim had not been party to the antics of a group of young men from the local neighbourhood, having consumed a quantity of alcohol and taken 3 Valium. So the blame put on the victim for being in the situation, of course, where the abusers were preying. This has been of some concern to me, given that she's already placed herself and somebody else presumably in danger. Over the past week, young men who were involved in the events of last Monday have continued to call. And in Oxford, the girls in the so-called care homes were warning they were being abused, and nobody listened to them, including safeguarding in Oxfordshire. And of course, they were also saying, what were the charities doing? So it's about time, we think, that the spotlight came on the charities. I'll just move on from, this is the final page here. Although the victim is now taking a firmer grip on herself and no more incidents have taken place, the aim of this letter is to inform you that there's been some worry in relation to his or her ability to act and think responsibly, leaving herself and others at risk. It's your fault.
Yeah.
It's outrageous that people are donating their money to charities like Barnardo's. And of course, what's really going on, we'll have a look at this, because today, taking place very, very shortly, 2 p.m, is the court hearing for Melanie Shaw. Yesterday, we didn't believe that Melanie was going to be present, but we now understand that she will be present in court. I'll say she is already present in the court building, but we don't know whether the court hearing will be open to the public or closed. Welcome to the rise of secret justice. So here is an abuse victim. What has Barnardo's done for Melanie Shaw? Nothing, I don't believe. What has NSPCC done? We'll see that in a minute. What's going to happen to this lady? She's going to be put through a secret court. And here's the Ministry of Justice crowing about what a good job they're doing to help victims. Go and have a look at their website. You'll find a map with lots of little dots on it. And when you press the dots, it says what they're doing to help victims. So there's a new Northampton Victim Service, Voice, new professional tailored service. Nottinghamshire PCC is supporting teenage girls affected by domestic violence. Nobody's supporting Melanie Shaw. Oh look, City of London Police is assisting a scheme to assist vulnerable individuals and small businesses in London by helping them to recover from the emotional and financial impact of fraud. Well, that doesn't apply, obviously, to Ian Puddick, who had his business smashed apart by City of London Police. So what we're really looking at here is absolute lies and propaganda from the establishment, helping victims by arresting them and charging them with no evidence. And people are responsible, not the department. So should it be that people focus, for example, on Mr. Chris Grayling, another smug Tory politician? Just extraordinary. This is our email to NSPCC recently, 6th of October. We wanted a phone call to one of the NSPCC executives to ask what help they were going to give Melanie Shaw. They didn't want to give us that phone call, and in the end they did speak to us on the telephone, but it was one of the media team said, well, we're not really interested in Melanie Shaw. We're working with Nottingham City Council, and more or less it's no interest to NSPCC that Nottingham City Council is already saying it's lost child abuse records. So what are these charities up to? I don't know. There we are. That's the sort of language they're using. We don't see a problem in working with Nottingham City Council, and we're not really interested in Melanie.
Shocking.
Brilliant. Well,
okay, this is unbelievable. This appeared in the Mail. I got sent it last night coming over from America. But if we can go to this next picture, this footage that was being broadcast live on American news networks of a second nurse who contracted Ebola being put on a plane in Dallas. Now, you can see here a man with a clipboard, and he is not wearing any protective clothing. And as the Mail point out, he seems to be directing the transfer. But my question is, could he actually be directing the entire stage set, possibly? The whole production? Of course, the mainstream media are up in arms, saying this man, who amazingly can now not be found, should be quarantined. And, of course, officials are refusing to comment about this. Also, a lot of mainstream media are using this to continue the fear-mongering by saying that the CDC are handling the crisis in the wrong way. Now, it reminded me of pictures that I got sent from Spain, which we have here. These came out about a week ago, where a supposed Ebola patient is being removed from a plane. You have the people outside of the plane in their protective gear, but here you can clearly see the people inside who've transported the patient are wearing no gear at all. And I just wanted to bring this picture to people's attention to see if I couldn't actually see anyone in this incubation booth. If you can just go on. And that is supposedly being the Ebola patient being removed from that plane where you saw the guys not in the protective clothing. And this is the patient that they brought out. But can you see anybody in that tank?
Well, it does all look a bit sort of flat.
And
it looks like a deflated sort of balloon or something, doesn't it?
Exactly. But we're going to be discussing this on tonight's No Holds Barred show with Dr. Chris Grayling tonight at midnight on the People's Internet Radio. So we're going to be looking more into this. And there is a lot of word out that a lot of it's come from people who've had a Red Cross vaccine. But we're going to talk more about that tonight. But Obama has spoken out yesterday, and he spoke to reporters confirming that he is taking Ebola very seriously, but stressed that Americans have a very low risk of infection. He said he shook hands and hugged and kissed nurses at Emory Hospital who were treating one patient. There are calls from lawyers for Obama to put a travel ban in place to and from affected areas.
Right. Well, I wouldn't want to be hugging and kissing Obama. No. Never mind Ebola.
Leave that one if you want. Go on to the next one. Okay.
I think it's worth covering.
Okay, Lord Freud, who is the Welfare Reforms Minister, made a statement at a meeting at the Conservative conference 2 weeks ago, saying that disabled people should be paid below the minimum wage at £2. This all came to light after Ed Miliband yesterday started commenting on it at PMQs, and he actually asked Cameron, were comments made by Freud his thoughts also, and Cameron replied, of course not. And today Freud has made an apology, and he said, I would like to offer a full and unreserved apology. I was foolish to accept the premise of the question. To be clear, all disabled people should be paid at least the minimum wage without exception, and I accept that it is offensive to suggest anything else. I am profoundly sorry for any offence I may have caused to disabled people.
Interesting, isn't it? There's something fascistic, isn't there, about what's coming to light in the country.
Indeed.
Police smashing their way in, children taken. If you're disabled, you don't really want to be earning as much as other people. The true colours are coming to light through the suits. But luckily, some people are taking some pretty effective action. We mentioned yesterday that on Tuesday, a group of peaceful protesters spoke out at Glastonbury Town Hall Council meeting, and they were looking to secure a response from the council on the subjects of Agenda 21. What they were focusing on here is the true Agenda 21, which is the world population is going to be reduced, people are going to be forced to live in cities, and we are to be grossly controlled. And of course the Lisbon Treaty, stripping away freedoms of us here in UK. They pointed out that both were major attacks on our freedoms and liberty. Some members of the council found the concerns and questions put to them amusing. They all thought it was a bit of a joke. I would suspect they have no idea what Agenda 21 really is. And the protesters demanded that their elected councillors stood with them in lawful rebellion. Well, they didn't get a response to that, and as a result, they took over. If we just pop that one back briefly, Nick, thank you. They didn't get a proper response, so they took over Glastonbury Town Hall under Article 61 of the Magna Carta 1215. Now, this is not a spur-of-the-moment thing. This group of people have been in touch with the Duke of Rutland, the senior peer of the Barons Committee, and the significance of this is that the Barons Committee back in 2001 effectively challenged the Queen on what was happening in the country, that she was giving away her sovereign powers, she was accepting mediatisation, and they said you can't do this under the law of the land. But essentially that committee was refused entry. There was no proper reply to their demands. So these are the proper proper peers of the country who were deeply concerned about the attack on our constitution and our constitutional rights, and the Queen snubs them. However, the original Magna Carta laws, Article 61, still in place, and these people taking that basic law to raise a protest. Now, what's significant is, in this case, the police were called. When they were told on what basis the protesters were taking the action, they backed off. They didn't remove anybody from the town hall. And I've got to say, we don't know what the situation is at the moment. I couldn't get any contact for an update. But as soon as we can, we will get one of the protesters on UK Column News to give a first-hand account. You can take this with a screenshot after the show, but this is Article 61 of the Magna Carta, which they were basing their action on, that if we have a lawless government, it's up to ordinary people to take what action they need to in order to secure proper justice and law and order. So we are finally starting to see ordinary people stand up to be counted, and this group has requested that people in other parts of the country should adopt a similar procedure. So that brings us in nicely to November the 1st, and of course we've got the health conference. I'm doing this in reverse order because this is the Sunday, but health of everybody, very important. And of course the British Constitution Group absolutely getting to grips with our Constitution, what laws should be in place and how common law should be protecting us. Instead, we've got this terrible secret justice system through star chambers. So the good news is people beginning to act. We still believe that the subject of child abuse is the key subject, because if we can take the lid off the paedophiles in Westminster and the establishment, we will of course be well on our way to correcting the criminality and the criminals controlling the country. We'll say thank you very much to those who attended the UK Column meeting last night, and a special thanks to the couple who came all the way from the Isle of Wight. That was
really?
Much appreciated. Okay, that's it from us today.
The updates on Melanie, sorry. On the Facebook page. As soon as we hear anything, I will put stuff up on the UK Column Melanie Shaw group page to let people know what's going on. But I think she'll be going in, or supposedly going in, very shortly.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. Okay, thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.